Good evening, everyone. I'm Akush Lapinder, and welcome to your JCN News. After months of stenching, the Bahamas Hotel Managerial Union and the government have finally reached a decision on voluntary separation packages for 91 managers of the Grand Lucayne Resort. With the details of the signing, we go now to a report from BJ McDermott.
The total package, $4.3 million, and according to Tourism Minister Dionisio de Aguilar, $3.7 million of that comes from the government and the remainder from an annuity fund that the workers could access at their leisure.
Moving forward, the employees will be able to take advantage of the amounts that are about to be dispersed to them. And as I say, prepare for the future, which is very bright. As you're all aware, we feel that there are significant jobs on the horizon in Grand Bahama. Obviously, we have the Carnival deal that's in the final stages of being agreed on, which will lead to hopefully approximately 1,000 jobs.
On hand for Monday's signing, Bahamas Hotel Managerial Union President Obi Ferguson, who said throughout the process the government maintained employees' wages and benefits as far back as October, and that, he said, showed good faith.
That was something that we relied on, and where we had one or two members who had an interest in trying to resolve it at $2,700,000, we indicated that the government, in this case through the minister, was being very understanding, and to this day, as we speak, those members are still being paid their salaries, their benefits. So for that, I want to thank the minister for that exercise.
However, the union chief suggested that moving forward, visa packages be incorporated in collective agreements to avoid, at times, tense negotiations.
Tourism industry is the kind of industry that you want to have peace, you want to have stability, you want to have a certain amount of security and productivity for our number one industry. And I believe that our relationship is critical as we move forward.
Now, according to Minister de Aguilar, workers could receive the first payout by the middle of this month. Reporting for JCN News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
The tourism minister also confirming that 3 gaming operators are compliant with the recently imposed taxes. This while negotiations with the others continue.
We're negotiating with the remaining 4. But we certainly, we can negotiate all we want. At the end of the day, they will have to come compliant with the tax that's due. So we're not in any way going to forgive any of the tax.
Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance Peter Turnquist recently revealed that the government had still to collect millions of dollars in gaming taxes from some operators. Preliminary results coming in from the Department of Statistics and figures show a gross domestic product of $12.4 billion in nominal dollars. That's not taking into account any inflation, and $10.7 billion in real dollars, which does. This compares with how the numbers came in during the same period in 2017. Now, last fiscal year, the International Monetary Fund projected a 2.25% increase in real GDP growth 2019 compared to its previous projection of 2.5% for 2018. These new figures then represent an increase of 2.3% in nominal growth and real growth of 1.6%. Here's National Accounts Director Tira Newbold.
In 2018, 9 of the 17 industry groups contributed to the overall increase in real GDP. However, increases in real estate, wholesale and retail trade, accommodation and food services, and financial and insurance services were the leading contributors. For the real estate industry group, real value added increased by $16 million or 0.9%. Wholesale and retail trade grew by $43 million or 3% when compared to 2017. The accommodation and food services industry showed a combined increase of $253 million, which was influenced by 7.9% rebound posted for tourist arrivals in 2018. The financial and insurance sector grew by $42 million or 4.2% when compared to 2017. This is supported by a more favorable developments in domestic credit extended by the financial institutions compared to the previous year.
Now, Mrs. Newbold added that household expenditure also went up by $140 million, or 1.9%. Nonprofit institutions serving households grew by $7 million, or 2.2%. Exports in goods and services by $244 million, or 6.3%, while the import of goods and services dived by $23 million, or 0.4%. Based on the revised figures, real GDP growth was negative 0.4% in 2013, negative 1% in 2014, 1% in 2015, negative 1.7% in 2016, and 1.4% in 2017.
Revisions to the data include balance of payments provided by the Central Bank of the Bahamas, tourism visitor data, external trade statistics, consumer price indices, aggregated value-added tax data, and the Business Establishment Survey of 2007.
The figures were based on data available up to this past March. The full report will be made available on the department's website on or before June 13th. Pressure brought to bear on local businesses to cough up taxes, forcing some of them to close shop. It's also translated into Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance Peter Turnquest receiving a lot of flack. In the government's defense, though, the DPM says these businesses are given a period to pay. The problem, he says, is that there are some business owners who opt not to participate in the system, which puts an extra burden on those who are compliant. That said, the finance minister says the rates have to reflect that there's a level of non-compliance.
Oftentimes, people will approach us for some kind of relief, and depending on the circumstance, we do offer relief.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're coming from a culture of slackness and one where we can go to somebody and somebody will write it off, or if we don't comply, nobody ever really checks. And one of the things about value-added tax is that it's given us some compliance tools, all of us have to pay our fair share. And if we all paid our fair share, then we can keep the tax rates low, and we can do the things that we need.
Mr. Turnquest stressed that it's not the government's desire to put anyone out of business, but by the same token, it has an obligation to collect the taxes on the books.
Most people you will find that are in a situation where they are that far behind, it is because they have neglected to live up to their commitments for many years. Even when they find themselves in that situation, and we find this in the banking system too, people will realize all of a sudden, whoa, I've got this huge bill. And rather than coming and addressing the Department of Inland Revenue or the bank, they hide, and then it becomes a contentious kind of situation, and that is not good for either.
When asked if there is a possibility of a tax reduction, here's his response.
If we are disciplined and focused about what we do, I personally, I can see the day where we reduce taxes. I don't know that value-added tax itself will ever be reduced. I wouldn't want to make that statement. But I believe that we can eliminate a lot of the colonial taxes that we inherited, and make the system much more simple and flat, if you will.
Mr. Turnquest was at the time appearing as a guest on the JCN Weekly talk show, Jones & Company. Attorney General Senator Carl Bethel hoping to put to rest any lingering fears and concerns about proposed amendments to the immigration bill, repeatedly stressing in his contribution this morning that the temporary visa to be granted to foreigners coming to the Bahamas is only for the purpose of making income-generating decisions of their IBCs or investment funds and not to work in the Bahamas.
We are taking decisions to save Bahamian jobs, to save the Bahamian financial services sector. The truth of the matter is that without a major shift in the practical administration of immigration policies, without a major lessening of restrictive practices in relation to the core income-generating activities, strategic decision-making of these IBCs, we will lose hundreds, if not thousands, of jobs. in the financial sector. And it is the loss of such jobs, middle-class jobs, upper-middle-class jobs, and jobs for the, the not quite poor.
Sticking to their guns, opposition senators outrightly objected the amendments, with its lead spokesman on the issue, Senator Jo Beth Colby Davis, slamming it as a stripping away of the Bahamianization policy.
We can agree that foreign investors in some ways form part of the Bahamian history. For many, many years, you will hear the names of those who have brought much to the Bahamas and made an impression. I will not stand here today and insult the contribution of the foreign investors that has helped to build this country. However, I question whether there was a need for this Commercial Enterprise Act or the said amendments to the immigration bill. The Bahamas Investment Authority, if given the power and the resources, could efficiently and effectively manage this process for the country. And if there are apparent inefficiencies in the work permit process at the immigration level, then let us fix it.
Educating people and investing in their growth, she added, is what the new Bahamas should be doing. With that, the PLP senator admonished the government to rethink the amendment and try to tighten what is allowed or remove some professions from the list to avoid any further dishonest entry and influx of foreign workers, placing a greater disadvantage on Bahamians. You're watching JCN News. Stay with us.
This segment of the news was brought to you by Alive.